Let's begin with the latest coming in on the vaccine race. The partial success of AstraZeneca's vaccine has been received with much jubilation, but the early optimism has been shattered by an admission of error by the vaccine makers. Now, there were irregularities in the vaccine doses administered to trial volunteers. AstraZeneca's trial involved 2 doses of the vaccine, but the quantities got mixed up. Some of the vials only had half the dosage, so one group of volunteers got 2 full doses, while another group got 1.5 dose. But here's where things get interesting. The group that received the lower dosage reported better results. The vaccine was 90% effective in lower dosage, but only 62% effective in the other group. AstraZeneca arrived at an average efficacy of 70%. So what explains this anomaly? Let's break it down for you. 2,741 people got the lower dose. When it comes to a large-scale clinical trial, this is a small number. So this could be a statistical oddity, or the vaccine makers accidentally arrived at the perfect dosage. Now, experts say that more dosage can often lead to poor immune response. Perhaps 1.5 was the so-called Goldilocks amount. Another reason that could be that most of the people who received the low dosage were relatively young. So their better immune response can be attributed to their young age. But the big question is, what's next for AstraZeneca? The company says it had already reported the error to regulators and that the manufacturing error had been corrected. Now, AstraZeneca and Oxford will soon be publishing their findings in medical journals. This will include a detailed breakdown of how the jab affected different demographics. Authorities can then decide on whether to approve the vaccine. The US is considering modifying the AstraZeneca trial to include a half dose. This error by AstraZeneca has made the scientific community uneasy. There are questions being asked about the authenticity of the data, on why the data from trials in UK and Brazil were combined together. It's not standard practice in the medical world. Many of these questions will be answered once the study is published. Let's quickly get in a perspective on this news story. For more details, let's quickly go across to Professor Amos Panet. He's a virologist from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and is currently joining us live on the broadcast. A very warm welcome to you, Professor, as we speak again. Now, Professor, what does AstraZeneca's manufacturing error say about the current status of various vaccine study and the data that is emerging nowadays?
Yeah, in fact, it's very confusing and very embarrassing for the company to have mixed up results and first, report on 9% success, then report on 2 groups, one group 60% success and one group is a 90% success. So what they choose to do initially is to have several arms of the experiment. So they had different groups of people, younger people, older people, children, and given different doses to each group. And that's probably have led to the mixed up of the groups and of the doses that each group has received. Now, there are two possibilities. One possibility is there is really a kind of different immune response to high dose and low dose vaccination. And that's possible. We know that it can happen. But this has to be studied very carefully in terms of other parameters of the vaccine. The other possibility, of course, is more embarrassing. That, for some administrative errors, they were mixed up of the groups and the dose of vaccination. And I don't anticipate that the regulatory authorities will take it easy.
Right.
So they may ask AstraZeneca to repeat some of the experiments, and this can throw the company back for several months back.
All right.
So
that's an interesting observation that's being made by you over here, that a repeat of the experiment is a good possibility now. Now, would you by any chance attribute this error to rushed trials, and will this now impact its clearance by US regulators?
Oh yeah, certainly it will impact the approval phase. And, you know, once a regulatory agency is suspicious of results, they are very, very strict. And the easiest things for them to do is to throw away the file and all the results and to ask for repeats of the experiment. So this is throwing them back. And in fact, the AstraZeneca vaccine is work on a different platform. It's not like the platform of vaccination of Moderna and Pfizer, which is using RNA for vaccination. AstraZeneca is using a weakened virus and implanted into this weak virus a gene from the coronavirus. So it's a different story altogether. And this will require even more strict analysis of the data.
Right. So it's a difference of approach that also needs to be analyzed in case of AstraZeneca. Having said that, Professor, I also want you to comment on the kind of rush that the vaccine trials are being subjected to. COVID-19 vaccine rush has already raised fears of a booming black market, at least in China. What should be now done by authorities to address concerns about inequitable distribution and even the emergence of illegal markets?
Yeah, first, the vaccines, so far there are only 2 vaccines which received final confirmation, final authorization for marketing. One is a Sputnik in China, in Russia, and the other, there is one vaccine from China which has been approved already for use, for public use. The American vaccinations, the 2 American vaccinations and the British one are still under consideration, so they cannot sell them out. But of course, in few months, there will be a lot of vaccines around in the market, and there will be a black market. So it's the responsibility of the governments, really, to make very strict. So there will be no distribution unless the government approves first distribution to medical personnel and second distribution to high-risk people, meaning old people and people with all kind of side effects that may be under danger of the corona.
Right. Having said that,
this will be up to each government to do and to implement.
Fair enough. Of course, greater government vigilance is required once the vaccines are out for distribution. Having said that, thank you so much, Professor Amos Panet, for joining us on this broadcast.
Thank you for all the audience in India from Jerusalem.
It's been a pleasure.